entertaining podcasts I listen to. I don't listen to many. That one, Francine, is a different point of view. It's a female point of view, but someone who's been through the hardcore wars. So
Yes.
what Francine has to say to me matters and is important. And there are two guys up in New York, Monte and the Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
I find them hugely entertaining. I find them fun to listen to. But those three are the only three podcasts really other than, the PW Insider stuff that I listen to at all.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monte The Pharaoh, seen out of Mike Monte's room and Jimmy Farrow's saloon. One day, Jimmy, are we allowed to make that announcement real quick? Or no, that's no good.
Shut up, Mike.
All right. Well, I'll wait to. But me and Jimmy should be back in studio at some point soon enough. But more importantly, our special guest, Shelly Martinez. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Now that you're here, we're very excited. Very excited. Older guys like to just fawn over younger women, right? Because we don't have much left in our lives, so we just,
oh boy,
this is how it is.
Well, that's pathetic.
Well, as we were speaking about before we went on air here, I am a vampire, and we're talking about how vampires don't die, and I was like, there's so many different types of vampires, and there's faux vampires, and they're the ones that get all the credit. They're the ones that give actual real vampires a bad name, and I'm here to stand tall for my fellow vampires out there that are the true vampires. You know who you are.
When did you realize you were a vampire?
Well, it's interesting because I do believe today is the film release day of the movie The Lost Boys. So when I was a girl and I saw The Lost Boys for the first time, I just became obsessed with vampires. I've always loved kooky, kind of fun, campy, horror-esque kind of things, but that movie is when I got bit. That's when I consider I got bit. And the reason why the obsession with vampires grew as I got older was I grew up in a really real kind of environment and saw a lot of things I shouldn't have. And so death was always something I was aware of. So being a little girl, I'm like spooked. And then I was going to a church that, no offense, but it was very cult-like. So they just thrive on fear. So I was like so freaked out about death 24/7. So this idea of a vampire to me was so cool because I was like, oh my gosh, they don't die. And that's when I really threw myself into just really being into vampires because it was the way that I tried to cope with my death anxiety.
So let's be honest here, though. You got into Lost Boys because that dude that was all jacked up, friggin' playing that saxophone, right? Come on now. Come on. Let's be honest.
Dude, long live that meme. I'm so proud of that fellow. He probably could still charge $20 to take a picture. I would.
Me too, by the way. Me also. I was crushing on that dude. I got to be honest with you. That dude,
what?
I was crushing on him, man. The dude's like built like a brick shit house. He's playing the saxophone. He's got this like long hair. I mean, who wouldn't have sorry.
Well, not my type. But
Mike's
he's
type.
so iconic. He's so iconic. And even as a kid, you knew there was this like element of cheese to it, even if you didn't understand it. And it holds up, dude. It totally holds up. I love it. So cheers to that dude out there, the saxophone guy from
You know
Lost
what's
Boys.
scary? We don't even know the guy's name. Cheers to the saxophone guy on Lost Boys. So, what is your type of guy?
I have many actually, but they're consistent because there's people who, first of all, my whole thing is I have a Jesus fetish. The person I've been with for almost 10 years now, he really does look like there's a lot of dudes out there. Just because you got a beard and long hair doesn't mean you look like Jesus, people. Okay, just letting you know. Sorry to break it to you, but that's not the case. He look. He does not look like Jesus.
Yes. Mike, man crushing. I feel
Does
sick.
does not
I
look
don't
like
feel
Jesus.
well at all.
Wait a
What's
minute, come
going
on, dude. We're hearing about a Jesus fetish right now. I'm totally into this right now. What's
Well,
going
I'm trying to figure out right off the bat, though. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to like connect the dots between vampire and Jesus, and I know there's a connection. So, what is the connection here?
Vampire for God.
That is
It's
pretty
deep.
wild.
It's
That is
deep.
pretty.
That is
There's
deep.
not many of us. So yeah, I have that. So that worked out for me in life. But I also like bigger guys. How can I let me think of some people who let me just throw out some names of people who I found like attractive and always had a crush on.
Okay.
Okay, this is wrestling. Let's keep it wrestling themed, okay?
All right.
Paul Heyman.
What?
Totally was obsessed with Paul Heyman for the longest time.
Come on,
Wait,
stop it.
hold on.
Stop it.
1,000,000%.
Physically?
1,000,000,000%. I've talked about it openly.
What?
So there's Heyman, the
Wait,
Big
Shelly, I gotta
Show.
just cut you off real quick. Jimmy,
Oy,
what is wrong with this
oy.
planet that someone that looks like that is attracted to Paul Heyman?
He's hot.
I can't even. I can't get. Forget it. Go
Shut
ahead,
up.
Shelley.
He's
I'm
hot.
lost for words. I just
I
might
don't know.
bail
I'm
out of
telling
this
you,
shit.
I have weird tastes. I have different tastes. And then there's people like John Candy. He's another one that I like.
John
I always had
Candy.
I had a huge crush on. John Candy. Oh my goodness.
What
Yes.
about what was it? He lives in a van down by the river. What about Farley?
No.
Is it the van? Is that the turn off? The
It's
van?
not the van. I don't
Okay.
know what
All
it
right.
is. And going back to wrestling, like the Big Show, I always had a big crush on.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Come
Yep.
on.
And then
nice.
so then there's that, but then there's also like I like tall, skinny, like long hair rocker looking guys. Remember the magazine like Metal Sludge and all that? Do you guys
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So guys like that. So there's that one. And then
Just stop it, Shelley. Stop.
I swear to goodness, if you guys look it up, I've talked about it openly. Because
Wow.
here's the thing. I always kept it a secret, right? But again, I've been in
Yeah,
a
good
very
idea. Good idea.
I've
by
been
the
in
way.
a very
Clarissa.
serious, committed relationship for 9 years. Okay. So I started thinking to myself, there's no chance in hell that I'll ever be with anyone aside from who I call his nickname is Metal Jesus. So we're gonna just call him Metal Jesus. That's my guy. So Metal Jesus, it's like he's my perfect person, even though I could kick his ass sometimes. So he's still my perfect person. So that's when I started feeling like, why not start talking about how for years and years and years I had such a Paul Heyman fetish. Like I always wanted his attention. I was obsessed with him. If he would have back in the day and he wasn't married, tried to sleep with me, I would have. Like there was just
Wait,
something.
Shelley, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
All right. So here's Metal Jesus, right? And Metal Jesus is floating around your house, and he's thinking to himself, he's like, I just landed this woman. I am Metal Jesus. He's got the horns, yeah. And then he finds out that. Come on now. It's like over right there. I mean, stop.
What do you like? What do you mean over? Like
All right,
psychologically?
wait. I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta go further. So you said if Paul Heyman was single and he wanted you, you would have slept with him.
Back in the day, yes.
Now, honestly,
That's any better.
in the imagination of your mind, in what world would you think Paul Heyman is even good in bed?
I think he probably could be. Here's the thing.
What?
There was a time, I can't remember, I think it was 2014-ish, something like that. I did a photo shoot for the Heyman Hustle, his website. He had girls that he would feature on there. And I remember that day, um, I went to this really cute spot. That's where we were shooting. And I was just I was like, if Heyman tries anything, I am so down. Like, I am so down. Like, let's do
Damn.
this. There's even a photo of me, and it's me and him, and he's showing me like a photo we just took, and you see me, and I'm like, just this to him. Like, it's a thing. And that's what I thought. Like, it's never going to happen because I have Metal Jesus. Long live. So I felt like, why not start talking about it, because people love gossip, and this is straight from the horse's mouth, and I think people do find it shocking. For the longest time, I was mad at Heyman for a while, and so I always thought that I was just like kind of resentful towards him, but that's when I realized that resentment was really because I really was into him.
Wow.
Yeah.
I might have to take a break. I don't. You just blew my mind. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Wow. Jimmy, you're not even talking at this point. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Real quick, that whole conversation was quite revealing, but thank God I'm still very comfortable with myself being an older, skinny rocker. I'm fine. I'm good.
I would tell you before the show, I was already down on my life, as you know, Jimmy. And this has made me feel more like shit than I've ever felt before. But hey, what can you do?
I feel like you guys are shaming me over here for people. I can't help who I like.
This is not your fault, Shelly. It's my fault. I just realized that
he's got to be charming, Mike. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, he must be charming. There has to be an aura to him that some ladies find
as Shelly was explaining.
That's all there is to
as
that.
Shelly was explaining the possible sexual experience with Mr. Heyman, all I could think about is like a potato bug on its back, flipping its and I'm just like, it's not right. Shelly, but you know what? I love the honesty. Is there someone good looking that you're attracted to?
How about
Metal Jesus?
I always thought that. I thought
handsome.
CM Punk he was cute.
Yeah, Punk's cute.
Nick Nemeth is cute.
Oh,
really
come on,
cute.
everybody. Nick Nemeth. You know what, Jimmy? We're talking about Nick Nemeth's a 10, right?
Yeah, he's here to show to the world, and he does.
So does that make you feel better, Nick Nemeth?
It does a little bit.
Does it make me feel better, Mike? You know, you see the poor path you take our guests down. Good God, you know. Oh Lord.
Who else?
What about Hulk Hogan? Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Was Hulk Hogan handsome to you?
No. Sorry.
No. Okay, he doesn't do it for you, brother.
No, brother.
Jimmy, he didn't do it for me. Someone asked me if I had seen that sex tape, and I'm like,
no, I don't want to see that. No, I don't want to see that.
No, I don't. No.
No, I could do without that. I could also do without a Heyman tape too, by the way. So please don't get any ideas. I don't want to see. I don't want to see that either.
Go ahead, Shelly.
And then another one is, I always thought Colt Cabana was really, really handsome.
Colt Cabana?
I was obsessed with him for a long time too. It was disgusting. It makes me want to throw the F up. But it's cool because everything in life happens for a reason. So when I was being totally a psycho towards Colt Cabana, what I would do, this is so desperate. So what I would do is, back in the day, like the early 2000s, I would go on his website and I would see where he was booked, and I would try to get booked everywhere I could just to be around him, because I wanted to see if I really liked him or if it was just a crush. Because something I've learned is, when somebody really inspires me, especially to be a better version of myself, whether it's in a career kind of way or in my personal life kind of way, I kind of put them in this pedestal and then like make them a bigger deal than that they should be. So when Cabana kind of fell in that category, I was like, okay, do I really like him, or am I doing that pedestal thing? And so I had to be around him more. So like a psycho, I like followed him around. But when I realized that he wasn't for me, like, I had all these amazing matches. I had all these amazing moments. Like, that's what I signed up for in wrestling, was the stories, the getting to the show, the process of it all, like all the stuff. It's like the performance is such a small part of it. It's like all the crust around it, I guess, is what I like the most. And so being psychotic and following Cabana around, who I still think is very handsome, even though he's not for me, it allowed me to have these experiences in wrestling. And at that time in my career, I really needed it because that was around 2011. And I had taken a couple years off of wrestling up until that point. And so it re-entered this passion and love for wrestling for me. And I realized I can actually have fun again. Like, this is after WWE, this is after TNA. So it's like, I wouldn't have had that if I wasn't being a desperate bitch following Cabana around.
And when do you realize he's not for you? Like, what makes that trigger? Like, what happened that you're like, nah, it's not my type?
I think now looking back, and this isn't just with Cabana, it's with other dudes as well, especially after my Ariel character. They expect me to be this certain way. And I think that's what they're kind of signing up for. And when I'm like praying before I eat, and I'm like, oh, I just love the Lord. And they're like, wait a minute, what is this? Like, this, like you said earlier, like, how does this match? Like the Jesus thing, a vampire, like I am what you see is what you get. But people, especially if they have in their head this already judgment of how I am based on specifically my Ariel character, it throws them off. And for me, my relationship with God is the most important thing in the entire universe. So once I see static with that, with anyone, even when I've been in my darkest times, I'm like, that person's not for me. And I thought Cabana, I thought he was more of a practicing Jew, and he just wasn't. And so he wasn't for me.
Right. Well said. So let me ask you this. It's a great way to move into this. So, Hulk Hogan passed away, really big news in wrestling. I'm going to ask you, what are your thoughts on the negativity on Hulk Hogan and what's being said about him being a child of God and the morality of what's going on in this country in some cases? And go ahead. I'm over speaking.
I want to be careful with this because I've been pretty open publicly for years that I didn't really like him.
Well, can I cut you off there and just ask you why you didn't like him? And this is a non-judgment zone, right? Everybody is, as long as we talk respectfully about human beings, right? To me, your opinion's your opinion.
So I just don't. If you're asking, so here we go.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm human. But whenever I had been around him, I just didn't get a good vibe. And then when I start hearing the stories, and when I say stories, I'm not talking about stuff that's on the internet or things that fans know, just like stories between us carnies, it kind of confirmed why I got a bad vibe. So that was kind of just my vibe on it. And then as time went on, more things came out, and then things got public, and then even more examples of why he wasn't really somebody that I'd care to dine with or something like that. But I understand that aside, how instrumental he was to the wrestling business. And I think it's really, really weird that he passed. It weirds me out. And it makes me feel for his family and people who were tight with him. Like I said earlier, my whole thing with vampires, it's because I've been around death my whole life. So I take death very serious. And I look at it in a different way Um, and so his death has really affected me in this really weird way. And then it's like take all of me being in the business away from it, right? You're a kid and you grew up watching freaking Hulk Hogan. Somebody, so it's like a mind F of just being a person that has seen this person in pop culture, not just in wrestling. So it's weird. It just is really, really weird. And my heart just really goes out to the people that were tight with him or at one point were tight with him and his family, because I can't imagine, especially when you have this person that's like a Hulk Hogan, this bigger than life person. And I don't know. It's weird. It weirds me out. It really does. And then the fact that it's like alongside with like Ozzy passing, it's just like so weird. These iconic people back to back. It's weird. It freaks me out.
Well, this may sound strange, but being the fact that you stated what you are as a Christian believer, oddly enough, both Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne were exactly what you said they were. They were the pillars of their craft as far as their contributions, but they were also Christians that absolutely believed. Ozzy himself was always unfairly labeled. You talked about labels earlier when you mentioned your character in the ECW days. You presented a dark character, but here you are with the Christian heart. Ozzy had that heart. He was being portrayed as the Prince of Darkness, but that's merchandising. That's not the real man or his message, by the way. Hogan, I just feel like it might be weirding you out for the same reasons it's probably weirding me out. We're all believers of the Christian faith on this show. I can't say that for my partner, myself. Yours, you've obviously stated that. They felt genuine. I was lucky enough to meet Hogan only one time, and he was very genuine and very, very nice man. And he was nice to everybody in the room. I understand it's only 24 hours, but my vibe on him is he's just like me. He's just like you. We're flawed. We've all got demons in our closet, and yeah, he screwed up. But I hate to see people tap dancing on his cadaver days after he is the Babe Ruth in his contribution to the sport. But I digress. That's my take. Do you think that the tributes that WWE have done for them is, genuine or going through the motions? Are you surprised that they've done tributes for Hulk Hogan with all the outrage on the other side about not being fans of Hogan? What's your take on them doing the tributes for him?
To be honest with you, I haven't seen them.
Okay.
So I can't say that, but I think it would be really weird if they didn't. Hello, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's Hulk Hogan. I don't think. Here's the thing. Unless you live through it, some shape or form, like through the 80s till now, there's generations of people that just don't get. They understand that Hulk Hogan was this like icon or whatever, but they just don't understand. And then for me, being a person that became a wrestler, was a fan of wrestling, became a wrestler. Like, and not only that, but Hogan is one of those people for me that was always somebody that was a good example of how you can be in wrestling, but you can also do things in Hollywood. Because before I was a wrestler, I was already a model actress. My goal was to go to WWF, but I didn't know how at the time. But I was always into modeling and acting. So you got people like Hogan who were in these mainstream pop culture movies and television and all this. And I feel like wrestling's always been holding hands in bed, however you want to say it, with Hollywood. But I feel like Hogan really brought that bridge together and people just don't know because they weren't around in the 80s to realize that, or they don't remember and it's not fresh enough. I don't know. So there's the person, Terry, and then there's the character Hulk Hogan. And I get why people are always going to use social media now as their outlet for their feelings whatever. But I feel like go ahead and let people say how they feel. It's not going to take away the imprint he did leave in the business and his legacy within the business. So when people get wrapped up with like the negative stuff that's online, my advice is get offline then. Because yeah, there's a lot of people online, but that's not the entire universe. That's not the entire world. Like it's fine, you know what I'm saying? So I just think that people getting in fights about how they feel about Hulk Hogan passing and their feelings on him, just let them do it and just ignore it if it bothers you or drains you because people are just going to do it no matter what. I'm sure there's people talking crap about Ozzy somehow or whoever else. It's always going to be a thing. I don't get wrapped up into it because I just choose to like not pay any attention or give my energy to it. So that's why I don't see this stuff that much. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll see it here and there and people be like, "Oh my gosh, like I had to quit my Twitter because this." And I'm like, "I really don't see that stuff because I don't feed that into that energy, you know?" Anyways.
It's really
I
good
get it.
points. I find it
I get
it interesting that you shared with everybody that the feelings, like the vibe you got from Terry, put Hogan's character away. We'll
I
just
feel
talk about the
bad. I
person.
feel so bad.
No,
But
you're making a statement on how you feel, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? You weren't disrespectful, right? But
Mm.
here's what I found interesting, though. On the other hand, I get the feeling that you're a pretty big Ozzy fan. Am I right?
I wouldn't say a big Ozzy fan. Ozzy's special to me in the sense of the times he's popped up in my life. Like, I remember leaving a Ozfest way back in the day before wrestling was even like on the horizon. And I had this real douchebag boyfriend, and he was getting mad because dudes were like, kept telling me that I look like a tattoo. Like, you know, when dudes get like pinup tattoos, I was like this
Yeah.
rockabilly girl.
Right.
And so he was getting mad about it. And so we had to leave early. And I was so upset because I was like, dude, we've only been here for like a couple hours or whatever. So we're walking to the car. And then all of a sudden, this big bus comes and Ozzy's there. And he just like looked at me and we made eye contact. And he made this mischievous smile. And then he like ducked. And then because I guess like he wasn't supposed to be seen or whatever, because whatever. I was just at the right place at the right time, I guess. And so it was weird because that boyfriend was really toxic. He was mentally and physically abusive. I got with him when I was my senior year of high school and then like a couple years into my 20s on and off. And when that moment happened with Ozzy, that's when I knew in my soul that I was destined for more and I wasn't going to be stuck with this guy and I was going to find a way to escape him because I was afraid he was going to kill me. So it was this weird moment that was so quick and Ozzy probably never even thought twice, but that's what it was to me. And then there was another Ozfest that this other whole like spiritual thing happened. I don't want to get into it. And then there was that. And then when Ozzy performed on SmackDown, SmackDown was teamed up with ECW at that point. And I was hanging out with his band members like on and off throughout the day, just talking about music because I love music. And they were really interested in seeing me perform. And they were like, they love the whole vampire thing, of course, and like whatever. So when I was getting ready for the show, Ozzy's dressing room was right next to me and he was like warming up. So it was really cool to hear him like do the la 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 la. And so I was like, here we go with Ozzy, man. This another kind of intimate moment I'm intruding on, right? And so someone starts talking to me through the door. I don't remember who it was. And they were like inviting me to come in there. And then as I was going, Ashley Massaro goes, Shelly, you're going to get in trouble if you go in there. I was like, I don't care. Ozzy wants me to go in there. I'm going to go in there. And so I start to go in there, but then somebody else stops me, like WWE people, and like it didn't happen, whatever. So then I go, Ozzy performs. the band is like, Ozzy left, but we're going to stay because we want to watch you perform. I was feeling like on cloud nine. I was like, this is so freaking cool. So this was my infamous night where I got into a fight backstage with Batista. So it was my last night, unbeknownst to me, with WWE. And so I remember one of the things Batista told me when we got into this argument backstage is that I was nothing and I don't put asses in seats and I'd never be anything in the business. And to me, I was like, F that. I don't put asses in seats. Ozzy's band, stay. And there's a whole saying in wrestling, if you can work the boys, your money. Meaning if the guys in the back, the people that are in or girls in the back that are in the business, if they're marking out for you, your money, because that's the boys, right? So to me, I'm thinking, this is Ozzy. So this is not our boys, but an entertainment. I'm over here popping the boys, or I'm putting asses in seats, whatever, Batista. And so I went out there and I remember and so I remember I went out there and I knew I was going to get fired after what had happened backstage. And what kept me going is I wanted to just entertain Ozzy's band because that's the energy I wanted to be in. So I kind of blocked out everyone and I was just doing my thing extra. And then I remember there was a part of the match. I'm not sure if it came across on television, but in the arena, people started chanting my name. And as a heel, that's not supposed to happen. So normally I would play into it and then do something to the crowd to piss them off to get my heat, right? But I knew this was my last time in that damn ring. So I just ate it up and did my thing. And I was thinking, yeah, put asses in seats. You hear that, Batista? In my head. And so that was my other Aussie moment. And so it's weird to me. And it's crazy because earlier in the month, there was all these pictures. It was when he did his last show and I was confused. I thought he died. And I even posted a picture from that show that I'm telling you about on my X. And I posted a picture from that show saying, here I go. Everyone's posting. I'm glad he's not. I thought he died, but here I'll jump on the bandwagon. And so then just for weeks later, him to pass, totally tripped me out because of course, when I post that photo, I was reliving all of this, right? And so it just tripped me out, brothers. It tripped me out.
Amazing. Let me ask you this. So I've seen some videos with you, and you just mentioned, when you were in school with an abusive boyfriend. I find it interesting that you decided to get into the world of wrestling. It's a male-dominated sports, and I'm assuming that you heard all the stuff. We're just fans, so we hear all the dirt shit and the shit that goes on. Weren't you scared about going into that type of situation? And respectfully, a beautiful woman going into this world of men, aggressive men, weren't you concerned?
It's interesting because this dude, he was physically abusive. He has pulled out guns on me, the whole 9 yards. So when I got into wrestling and finally figured out how to do it, because at that time here in Southern California, the wrestling presence on the indie level was very non-existent. And if it's there was places, but you had to really know, it sucked. So it was hard to figure it out. I figured it out, started going to wrestling school, and the wrestling school I went to, me and Melina started a couple weeks apart. And so what they were doing is some of the dudes in the class would, when we do drills, they would really beat mine and Melina's ass because a lot of girls would come through the school a lot of times because they were banging one of the wrestlers. And so this was their way of weeding out who really wanted to be there and who didn't. And I remember Melina used to always tell me, we cannot ever let them see us cry. So we would just whatever. So once that started happening, and I started to learn how to protect myself, when someone's coming at you hard. And not only that, but how to give it back. I finally was able to stand up to that boyfriend. And I'll never forget one time, it was the last time he hit me. He went to hit me and I just went all, I fought back. And he just was like, couldn't believe it. And it wasn't like a big old brawl. And the thing is like, you know, I'm 5'4". This guy at the time, like 115 pounds. This guy was like 6'4", 200 something pounds, a big dude. And so I remember he was on top of me and I was able to like extend my legs out and like do this like move I had learned in wrestling and it got him off of me. And I'll just never forget the look on his face was like so shocked, like he had lost all power. And when I saw that and I experienced that moment, that's when I knew wrestling is what allowed me to finally escape that relationship. And it's so crazy because there was a time a couple years into wrestling that I was just doing lucha. And so we would wrestle every Sunday. And he found out where I was wrestling. I had a whole other boyfriend at the time. He like crashed the match as it was happening. So, don't you know I love you, Shelly? Like it was like the fans, thank God they were mostly Spanish speaking like crowd. And they probably thought it was just part of the thing. And then the owner and all the boys had to break kayfabe and be like, we're going to beat your ass. Like, come on. And so again, wrestling for the first time when that happened, I felt like finally someone in my life stuck up for me. So WPW, shout out to you fellas that were there that day at the marketplace when my psycho ass boyfriend came, especially the owner, Martine, because up until then, I never really had anyone ever stick up for me. And to stick up for me to this dude who I couldn't escape, that's why when people like later down the road in my career, when I bitch, moan, and complain about things and they're like, oh, Shelly's still crying about that. It's like, because that's what wrestling means to me. It's not, oh, I wanted to go be in WWF and get famous. It always called to me. I followed the call. And when I was following the calling and that energy, I was able to do things like leave a relationship that I was afraid to leave and finally having the strength. And then not only that, seeing that people will stick up for me and what that did for me and how the training and all that stuff and everything that it did for me, from not giving up to learning things to being scared to gaining the respect of these dudes that were beating my ass at the beginning. I'm not saying it was right that they did that, but I'm just saying it was the old school way. And so wrestling to me is way more than what happens in that damn ring or in front of a camera or in front of a crowd. It gave me confidence. It gave me purpose and fulfillment. And so that's why I bitch, moan, and complain when I do, because that's what it means to me. And that's why I never cared about having like a women's title or this, that, and the other. When people are like, oh, did you ever want to get the win? And it's like, it never was that for me. I just wanted to be part of the show and doing things like the Ariel character or the Selena's character. I never was like, oh, I need a politic to like get a women's match or whatever. Even though I wish I could have wrestled more, especially in my Ariel era. It sucked. I was like, dude, I'm more than happy. Like, wow, I get to be a vampire. Like, hello, I've been preparing for this my whole damn life. And then when I was Selena's, my family, a lot of them were like gangbanger people, and I grew up in that environment. So that was just me doing satire of how I grew up. So I got these two characters that both companies had no idea were part of me already. And that's the characters I'm known for. That's what I signed up for. I don't care about no winning this and that. And there's no offense to people who care about that. That's fine. That's just never what it was for me.
Well, Shelly, I got some news, and Jimmy, I got some news. I found a picture of this gentleman that Shelly was talking about that came to that wrestling match. So I'm gonna put that on the screen.
He wishes. He wishes. He wishes.
He's mint.
He wishes.
Mike, if I could be serious for a second, if I've got this storyline correct that she's talking of, I'm amazed that she's trying to put her finger on the Aussie thing. And here I am, usually, you could see from the other side a little clearer. And to me, it seems really obvious that at major turning points in her life, from what she just told us, Ozzy appears. He freaking appears because
Isn't
he
it weird?
appeared, did a little wave, ducked out. The next thing you know, she's doing what she's doing. And then when she's standing up to Batista, he was in the building.
He was in the building.
So it's like, like these major things are what made her. And it was going to lead me to my next question, but I think I have my answer already. How much did this mess with your mental health with all the bullshit of the business? But it sounds to me like the first time you saw Ozzy and you got rid of that piece of crap, that you were already pre-adjusted to the bullshit you were about to swim into. Any thoughts on that?
Well, what's interesting is when I finally escaped that guy, right?
Yeah.
I promised myself I would never let a person, a place, or a thing ever make me feel that way. And no one or no thing ever did until Batista got in my face. So it's real deep, brothers. Like that was up until that point, the first time I got triggered. And that's why I bowed up to Batista the way I did, because to me, it was flashing back to that disgusting boyfriend. And I was like, no, this ain't happening. I don't care who you are. And that's why we had the confrontation that we did. But I love your pointing out that Ozzy is always in the building. And
I'm
so
serious. Yeah. It's fairy dust. The first time you saw him, it's fairy dust. He writes about it in a song called "The Wizard" on their debut Black Sabbath album. I'm not getting kooky here, Mike. I'm getting really.
You're getting a little kooky. You're getting a little
really
kooky.
No,
This has
but
become
the lyrics, he says, spreading his magic. He threw a little fairy dust your way. I'm telling you.
You bring up good points because, like I
I'm
said,
sorry.
it's so crazy because, like I said, the only time anyone's ever triggered me to think about, or like that energy of that ex-boyfriend,
Right.
was that time with Batista. And I just never put it together, that whole thing with Ozzy. So I'm going to really marinate on that for a week or two. But going back to your question about my mental health, well, dude, that's why I went and spiraled out for the longest time. Because here's the thing, and I didn't realize this until this past like year or so. So it's been a long time. So when I got fired from WWE, seemingly it's like, oh, she went after her no complete clause was done. She went right into TNA, like whatever. And the way I equate it is WWE was like my first love, and then they dumped me. So my rebound was TNA. And even though it seemed like everything was fine because it was a rebound, you're having fun, you're like, oh, F you, see who I am, who I'm with now, and this, that, and the other. I didn't realize when I was in it how much of a mind F everything was to me because of how I lost my job. And I couldn't wrap my head around it because it wasn't because I wasn't performing. It wasn't because I did something stupid. Like, I felt like, how is this? Because also I grew up in the business around old school mentality. And so I watched, and I've always been kind of like I'm a girl's girl, but most of my friends in life have been dudes. So I'm like the type where one of the things I liked about being around dudes so much my whole life is when they got a problem with somebody, they're going to say it right there, typically to the face. So I used that approach because I was just like, I'll just say it to your face. I'm not going to whatever. And so wrestling being such a boys club, a lot of it, even though if I didn't agree with it, I felt comfortable and understood because I was always around dudes and I was always like that, like the Elaine of the friend group, So it threw me off that instead of causing drama and gossiping and doing this, that, and the other and making it a bigger deal, I'm going right to people. How am I getting in trouble for that? And it's fine. And it just was like a lot for me to finally understand in that sense. Because when I was in TNA, even though it was my rebound, I was having fun, whatever, there was a lot of darkness I was going through. There was a lot. I was making a lot of poor decisions in my personal life at that time. Like, there's people that knew me from that era, I'm sure, that think I'm a complete douchebag, and I totally understand why they think I am, because they knew me in that time. And I never, and my struggle when I was going through it was I couldn't understand why I was doing douchebag things when that wasn't who I was.
Well, what was a douchebag thing? Like, what would you do?
Just getting involved with weird dudes and like just having low self-esteem and getting mixed. It's always about a guy. It's like getting mixed up with weird dudes and people seeing me being that insecure girl, especially because I just got fired, and seeing how it was affecting me, even though I was pulling through. It made me a target of a lot of really shady situations. And, I was always kind of like, I don't know, I just did a lot of shady things. And so it was this constant battle. And so it was really frustrating and it spiraled me. And then I took some time off. And then when I came back and went back to the indies, that's when I felt like I taken the time off. I like looking at it better, like blah, 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 blah. But then when I was in the indies long enough, I was doing the indies full time for quite a few years. Towards the tail end, that's when I realized that it doesn't matter if it's WWE or TNA. Like, the little bullshit things are happening on the indies now, and I'm thinking, I'm not getting paid enough to deal with like these carny people who shouldn't even putting on a show, like whatever. And then not only that, but my last boyfriend I had before meeting Metal Jesus was a wrestler, and it was one of those situations where everyone in the locker room knew he was cheating on me with the girl that was in the locker room, but me. So when everything came out and I was just done. I was like, you people are fake and phony. Like, no. And I would go into locker rooms and I'd throw my stuff down. And people used to always be like, Shelly's so positive. We love having her in the locker room. And it turned from that to I'd go into the room and I'd be like, I know you guys talk shit. So let's just get this over with so I can go home because I need the payday. And that's when I was like, this isn't even worth it. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, the only way it's worth it is if I'm making WWE money. Do I want to go back to WWE? No. So I guess I'm just going to retire. And so it's kind of teeter-tottering on that. And then when Balls Mahoney and China passed away, that really tipped me over the edge because especially with Balls Mahoney, we had a very special relationship. And I saw people who were like not in jeopardy of their spot at all, like high up in the card people being complete haters to Balls, trying to get him in trouble with the office, this and that and the other. And then here they are online when he's passed away and they're like, oh, this and that. It's one thing to be like condolences, whatever, but to act like you were this buddy when you're trying to get him fired, like, come on, like, I can't. And so that took it to a complete other level. And then that's when I was like, I'm done, dude. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not fun. I hate everybody. It's not worth it. I'm not even making money like I should be because of my love for the business and I got involved with some gimmicks that like whether it was like a stable of people or just like a feud with somebody that I really believed in. And like the promoters would be like, oh, we don't have enough money to bring you in all the time. And so I'd cut them deals because I'm like, I want to do this. This is making me on fire again. And so then it just got, as soon as I lowered my price, it kept going lower and lower. And it was just the struggle. So I was just like, dude, I'm done, dude. I'm so done. And then when that happened, my mental health really took a dive. That's when I gained all this weight. I was over drinking, which then leads to overeating because you don't want to be all effed up. You got to eat something. And I was just like filtering through all the trauma because it's crazy. It's like my crazy ass family, toxic ass family, and like that boyfriend prepared me for like life. And then once I was in life, it's like WWE, I was able to survive that environment for a while. But then the things there, it kind of prepared me to kind of get spit back into life. And so it took me a long time to just see that it's like this cycle, and I had to do the work on myself to break the patterns. And that was really hard. So now I'm just tired and over it.
I get it, but is it the wrestling world? Jimmy and I speak about this all the time, right? We're like, a friggin' wrestler will work you for every penny. You could have 2 pennies in your pocket and starving. They'll take it from you, right? Is it the wrestling world, or is it just a microcosm of the real world? And my other question to you is this: when you were having some problems, we'll just say in the WWE, we hear about Vince McMahon being this father figure. Did you feel like you couldn't go to Vince about it, or the great John Laurinaitis? Did you feel you couldn't do that?
I didn't have much interactions with Vince. But I did feel I had some sort of a relationship with Laurinaitis. I felt very comfortable talking to him. Um, and what's interesting is I would find myself in Laurinaitis's office because of these dudes getting butthurt because like of how I'm being. But so I guess what I'm saying is I kind of felt like people were like tattling, and I didn't even think it was worth bringing up to anybody because like why? Like why tell Laurinaitis? What the hell does Laurinaitis have? There he is. What the hell does Laurinaitis have to do with XYZ? Like come on, get over it. So I never thought about like going to somebody like a Laurinaitis or Mark Carano or a Stephanie McMahon because I thought it was better to just handle it myself. Like, why bring they got so much to worry about. Like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we interrupting their what they got going on? Like, who cares? So it just never crossed my mind, to be honest with you. But I would, if it would have, I would have totally probably talked to the 3 I just mentioned, Stephanie, Laurinaitis, and Mark Carano. And I just thought those were outside of work problems, even though it was with people at work that didn't need to be addressed to our bosses or our authority people at work.
Honest answer. I know it's going to be a difficult
Jimmy,
question.
by the way, I just want to say one thing. That's my type of employee. That's who should work for me. That's the type of stuff. That's what I like. But go ahead, Jimmy.
But of course, difficult question. Hopefully, do the best you can with it. What do you think of? Look, there's been a lot of allegations about Vince McMahon, another guy who at the end of his life seems to be getting a lot of, his haters would say karma. Hasn't been arrested of anything, obviously, at this point. Do you have any feelings on what's going on with Vince McMahon and all these allegations?
Well, it's interesting because I get asked this all the time, of course, whether it's in an interview or people who know that I was in wrestling. And I don't mean to sound whatever, but this is the answer I always give. It's nothing new. It's just nothing new. And maybe to me, I look at it so like whatever because you heard about these things so long ago. And not only that, it's like, I used to try to bring awareness to like things, especially after when I got fired and everything like that, right? And so something I've learned is people love gossip. They love to hear the gory details. They get their little dopamine hit. And once they're done, they move on to the next thing that people are gossiping about. And when I try to, I guess you'd say, expose or whatever people, what would end up happening is when everyone else has moved on, I'm the one left with the stress of dealing with threats, this, that, and the other. And my personal life's disrupted. Well, everyone else, not only have they moved on to the new gossip, but somebody like a Vince McMahon, who a lot of people have a very strong negative opinion of, which rightfully so, I guarantee you, give it a few more years. If he popped up on Raw or SmackDown, they're going to be cheering for him. They're going to be putting money in his pocket. And it's nothing new. What about once the Sable thing back in the day? Like, what about like when he was on Phil Donahue and like the things they talked about there? Like, it's all out there. People forget. And then when they remember, they just want to whisper about it, but still hand over their money to somebody like a Vince McMahon.
But Shelley, let me ask you this
Yeah.
question then. So your points are valid and everything you're saying. And by the way, you speak very intelligently. So it's just very, but here's the thing. When a person takes money for a transaction, in your mind, and I'm just asking, in your mind, doesn't that nullify everything the minute you take money? So you brought up Sable, right? That whole thing went on. Sable took money and then she came back, right? Janelle Grant, she was taking money. And when the money ran out, she's back. I mean, so is there a point where people lose credibility when they take money?
Yes. And here's the thing. Not only is this not new in wrestling, in entertainment in general, this is nothing new. So and then here's the thing. You could be somebody that's not even in entertainment, but if you're rich, these things, you have the Janelle Grants and all these other people like on your payroll and this, that, and the other. That is just how it is. To me, if people are consenting to it, even if the acts are horrible and this and that and the other, I feel for people who have to live with like trauma based on decisions they've made because they felt that's what they needed to do. Everyone has their threshold. But I'm here to say I kind of have a little bit of a strong opinion on this because from whether I was just a model, actress, girl, young Hollywood here, or it's been in the wrestling business and thereafter, I've had so many opportunities to take money or be in a situation or whatever, to be taken care of, this, that, and the other, all these different things, right? I had a choice and I didn't do it. And I'm not judging people who do, because to me, it wasn't worth it. I'll give you an example. When I was in TNA, I'm an idiot and I listened to Nova. I used to be friends with Nova. And when I told him how much they were trying to pay me in my contract when I first started, it was so low. And he said, just take it and you can always renegotiate. So that was one of the worst things I could have done because I struggled hard. Even though I was on TV and it looked like I was this something, man, I was like having to take cold showers because my gas was shut off, like different things like that. Like it was rough. I was living rough. And I remember I was coming home from TNA and I got an audition with this dude from HBO for the show Entourage. And I was so excited because I was all about that show. And I went and met with this guy, and young Hollywood, especially back then, you know, he knew I smoked marijuana. So he was like, oh, let's go for a ride. Let's go smoke because we can't smoke in the office. It's like, okay. And so we're talking about the show, whatever. And then he pulls over and he goes, and I kid you not, going back to like all this like trippy talk we have here. I was $500 short on my rent and I was stressing out so hard because I was like, dude, because my sisters lived with me forever. We're almost constantly getting eviction notices, just barely making it, whatever. And so I was like so stressed out. So then this guy goes, look, if you just go down my pants right now and grab the money on my dick, I have 500. He didn't know it was $500 short, right? I didn't talk about any of my financial stuff. He goes, I have $500 there. It's yours.
$500 wrapped around his dick, like he was ready.
Yeah, he's ready. He's like,
I'm sorry to laugh. It's like, okay, let's prepare.
He's like,
for this.
I have $500. Just take it. He goes, just take it. And I looked at him and I was like, take it. I'm not going to take it. And he was like, why? I'm not even asking you to go down on me or anything. I'm just take it. Just take it. Just take it off of my dick. And I looked at him and I said, if I take that $500 off your dick, which to be honest with you, I am $500 short for my rent right now. When I go home, I'm going to like throw up looking at myself in the mirror. I just can't do it. I can't. Again, this is no judgment to anyone that would or does. This is just my threshold. Okay. And so things like that would happen. A lot of opportunities, or I have famous people wanting to take care of me because they knew my situation was what it was, you know? And I wouldn't take it because that was just not something that I was interested in. So going back to this stuff, I'm very aware of how things work. That's why it annoys me when things become a big thing and it's like an exposing somebody thing when really you knew what the deal was and you were down at the time. It sucks, but that's just is what it is. And then I feel it really takes away from people, specifically women, who are out there that get into bad situations that they were not trying to be in. And then they get looked at as a liar or discredited or whatever. So then it hurts the people out there who are not down, who after what's said and done, and then they're like, here's some hush money. Like that's not the same as, you know, the deal. These are the things. If you don't want to do it, then you're off the payroll. That's different. And it just annoys me so much because there's so many, it happens to everyone, but I have a passion for women, so many women. And then that's why women give up and don't want to say anything because it's like, why? So then all of a sudden I get called, oh, well, you're this and that and the other. And it's like, it's so upside down. So I feel it really hurts the validation of people who need help, who need to be seeking justice, however that is. And it just really pisses me off. So when this whole Janelle Grant thing came out, I was like, so what exactly did he do that's illegal? I'm not saying the things he did aren't creepy.
Right. You have morality, right? Morals, and then you have legality, right?
Right.
That's right.
And so, you know, it was just, that's why I wouldn't even weigh in on it. I wouldn't even throw my energy into it. I never watched that documentary because I was like, dude, the things they're going to talk about on there, I already know. And a lot of it, like the really juicy stuff, behind the scenes, everyone knew. And not only that, if you go on the YouTube and go down a rabbit hole, it's actually been on there for 10 plus years, all this information. So it's like, it's nothing new.
So I want to bring this full circle then, because Jimmy and I were talking about on the first show. So here you are talking about the empowerment of women, which I find very, very important. So does it bother you that a Hulk Hogan gets the hatred he gets for dropping a word that you shouldn't use, but there's women being abused on a regular basis, and it's not considered at the same level? A word is worse than what's actually happening to women out there.
1 zillion percent. And it's hard because, like, okay, something that I've come to realize in more recent years is, you know, when I've looked back on these times where I got into trouble by being me, especially if it's me kind of taking up for somebody and people were like, that wasn't even your business, like blah, 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 blah. And I think that the reason why, or I know the reason why I'm that way is because I know how it feels when everyone around you knows what's going on. They're looking the other way, especially if the person that is doing things that are vile are a celebrity status. That also changes things. And it's just mixes everything up. And that's why, like, even though I've lost opportunities, I'm pretty sure I've been blackballed in the business many times over. I don't regret ever getting in trouble for speaking up, whether it was for myself or on the behalf of somebody else, because at least that made me feel like I did something about it versus just sitting back and not saying anything or being online fighting with people. It's like, no, that's what you do. You got to do something about it. So there it is. Some people think I'm a bitch. Some people want to say I'm bitter, whatever. I don't care. Someone's got to say this shit, and I'll be that bitch to do it.
Someone does got to say that shit. You know, it sounds to me like you definitely weren't probably much of a fan of the casting couch approach in Hollywood. Any roles you regret taking when you started getting into the films and stuff?
You know, the casting couches were interesting. Here's the thing, okay, especially when I was younger in the business of entertainment, I've always felt comfortable around like these old man river types in Hollywood. So when you're around these people, you learn how to kind of like hang. And I kind of felt like I knew my, I don't want to say role, but being around these people just exposed to me a whole other level of life that happens out there. I always tell people, when you have been on TV and done mainstream things, you just get exposed to things that the average person just doesn't know about, right? It's like this whole secret club. That's why everyone wants in, right? So what I would do is I navigated my career knowing these things, the things that go on, and I always thought I would be smarter and like outsmart the situation or whatever. And you know, a good example is there was this guy, this casting director guy, totally legit too, by the way. And me and this other model met up with him and this other guy, and they did a lot of stuff with like Hawaiian tropics and things like that. So I was like trying to get in. And I remember they took us to this like mansion, and it was just me and this girl. And there was all these naked pictures of women all on this coffee table. There must have been hundreds of them. And then this girl, she goes, whatever we do, let's just watch out for each other. Don't take anything from them to drink, nothing to eat, like whatever. And so I would always play kind of this like, hey, fellas, kind of like vibe. And it would always get me out of trouble. And another thing that would get me out of trouble is when I started smoking cannabis, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go outside. If I needed to bail, I could bail. So I really learned the ins and outs, dipped my toe in a lot, and never got in too bad of a situation. But early on in my career, I had a very negative experience. So long story short, as I can make it, there's this pinup burlesque model gal named Dita Von Teese. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. And she used to date Marilyn Manson. That really put her on the map for a while. But to me, Dita, back in the early 2000s, one of my like niches of modeling was pinup modeling, especially because I was like a rockabilly chick, right? And so it was me, Dita, Kat Von D, the tattoo artist gal, Holly Madison, who was Hugh Hefner's #1 girlfriend for a long time, and Bridget Marquardt, who was also a girlfriend. And the five of us always would shoot with the same people all the time because we were all doing the same kind of stuff. And Dita, like, and it was crazy because I wanted to be the wrestler, Dita wanted to be the burlesque girl, Kat wanted to be the famous tattoo artist, the other two wanted to be Playboy gals, and we all did it. So like, shout out to us, we all did it. But back when I was first starting, Dita, she introduced me because I just was so, I don't even know what the word is. Like, I just was really like like, whoa, like I love what she's doing and I want to do it my own way. Because back then she had her website and she was always doing photo shoots for her website and was charging a fee. So I thought that was really cool that she had this like empire that she was doing, like she had, and she was like building in this community as well as being a paid model and performer. So I started to shoot with people that she would shoot with, and she would shoot with these really high end people that did bondage. And like a lot of it, they would have like the latex suits on, so it wasn't even nude or anything. And I thought the photos looked really cool. I didn't look at it like, oh, this is high end jack off material for people. I looked at it as, oh, this is a beautiful shot. Like, oh, she has this white latex and this black robe. It looks so cool. I was so naive. So I started shooting with this dude that she would shoot with a lot. And I became like kind of friendly with him. And because I kept working with him, everything was cool, like whatever, whatever. But there was this one day when we were shooting and we did our last shot and he had me in a hog tie. And one of the things that I would do is if they put the ball gag in my mouth, I would push it out with my tongue because like I have a really like I'll gag like ugh. I know that's the point, but like ugh. And then going back to that vulnerability because of that boyfriend I had before, like you know whatever. So he starts like the cat turns the camera off and he starts coming on to me, which never happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not good. And so when I pushed the ball gag out to say something, he was like, "Oh no." And then he tightened it to where it was like really on. And so I started praying in my head. I was like, "God, please do not let me get like raped right now. Like, please, please, please." And so as I was in this deep prayer and he was being creepy, someone came to the door and he got so mad. And then he went and then the guy was lingering. He just kept talking. It was like, I think one of his business partners. And so he had to untie me. And so then I was getting my makeup and he came from behind and he like pulled my hair. He's like, "You're going to come back and see me, aren't you?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." Like I wanted my money. Right. So he gives me my check. I left and I never went back. And that just scared me so much because I was like, dude, like if that guy didn't come, what would have happened? Like, oh my gosh. And that's when I realized, like, what am I doing? This bondage thing. Like, what am I doing? Like, maybe I need to rethink this. Like, this is so off course from wrestling. Like, that's the ultimate goal. Like, I don't know about this. And I opened this door. And so that's like my one, like, really bad, I feel story.
But you kept your emotions, which I find amazing. You held it together and you didn't show them that you were scared, which I think is just awesome.
Well, it goes back to the toxic environment growing up and that boyfriend. I learned those things, how to do those things, and gave me those tools in that moment. And so it was crazy. And so there's that. And then my other crazy story is I had this boyfriend that was an actor. I'm not gonna say who because people would know him. And I don't know what he did to me, but long story short, I died in his care for like a few minutes. And it was so crazy because the I like drinking wine and cannabis. And so we were smoking and drinking. And I remember my wine looked weird. Like there was like it was fizzing. And so in my head, I'm thinking, like, but did he put something in it? But it's like, hello, he was my boyfriend. Like it's not like he's, you know what I'm saying? I didn't understand. Like, there's no way. And so next thing I know, it's the next day and I'm feeling really weird. And I go to take a shower. And when I come out of the shower, I like said his name. And then the next thing I realize, I hate to be cliche, fellas, but I was in this like emptiness and there was this light. And it wasn't like I was Shelly. I was just existing. And as I was gravitating up, I had this overwhelming sense of peace. I know it's so cliche, but that's what happened. And I heard my voice going, "Oh, this feels so good. This feels so good. Just keep going." And then it wasn't a thought, it was a feeling. And the feeling I got was continue to embrace that. or look down. So I chose to look down, and I saw this girl on the floor, and I felt so sorry for her. My heart broke for her. And then the next thing I know is I had to make a decision to continue or go back. And so I decided to go back. And when I decided that, my body, next thing I know, I just went like that. And then the dude was like, "Oh my gosh, like your body turned gray." And I'm so glad you're okay. And this and that. And that's when I'm realizing that was me. That girl I felt sorry for was me. It was the weirdest thing. And to this day, I am very traumatized over it.
It's amazing.
Mike,
Shelly, I want to be. Go ahead, Jim.
Mike, stay away from fizzy wine.
is that the lesson?
Wine.
Is that the lesson? No fizzy wine.
No fizzy wine.
So we want to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to ask you one more question. Then I'm going to hit you with the Pharaoh's final question. He may ask you what color underwear you wear. I don't know. You never know what's going to happen. But I wanted to ask you, what was your relationship with Sabu, and how does his passing affect you?
It's interesting because I was mad at Sabu for quite a few years up until his passing. So I feel bad. We used to be friends. You know, things happen. I'm not going to get into the details. It's nobody's business. But, you know, his passing really effed me up because it made me feel like guilty for being upset with him, you know? But then it allowed me to reflect back on our friendship and how it serves such a purpose and how I'm able to see that. And I was really struggling with it. I felt so effing bad, dude. And then somebody I know that is friends with both of us had mentioned, because I went to WrestleCon in Vegas. That was my first wrestling event in like 7 years. And they said that he was hoping to see me and he was really excited because he knew I hadn't been going to things or whatever. So that made me feel better that like he wasn't like, "Oh, F Shelly, like she's still mad at me, blah, blah, blah." So that made me feel better. When he and I became friends, you know, it was during when ECW, fake ECW and everything. And I just had a lot of moments with him, you know, and it really, my experience and my friendship with Sabu really opened up a side of the business and made everything really real. And I'll always be grateful for that. And it's funny because even though I've been upset with him for a couple years, we have this whole like inside joke with the word Ichiban. And so like I still say it unbeknownst to him all these years. And I like to think that even though I was upset with him, those times throughout the years that I would be like, "Oh, Ichiban," I'm hoping he felt it, you know? But again, I feel really, really, really guilty that, I don't know. Like part of me is like, I wish I would have just like tried to squash it or whatever. But you know, it is what it is, and everything happens for a reason. I really feel bad for RVD, among others, of course, but in particular RVD, because they were like such homeboys, you know, and that's rough. So then I started to like get into like dark mode about it, thinking like, "Oh my gosh, RVD, like, oh, that was his homeboy, like through and through." So yeah, dude, it's been a lot. These wrestling passings, they really hit me hard and on a different level. But with each one of them, I feel I come out like with some missing pieces of the puzzle of like me trying to heal and move forward. They always come out even with all these like deaths and stuff. So it's a lot, dude.
Yeah. You know, we've been doing this show for about 8 years now, believe it or not, and correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, is the wrestling business, everybody's just working everybody. It can really damage your faith in humanity. Am I picturing the right illustration here? Because that's how it feels after all these years sometimes. How do you navigate through that still?
That's what was hard to navigate through because that's not how it's supposed to be in my head. I'm like, so all these years, blood, sweat, and tears in my soul into this business just to find out that it was like a mind F to a whole other level, especially because what wrestling meant to me and what it gave me from escaping that boyfriend and all the other confidence it had given me when I had that moment to step back and just be like, dude, I'm so disappointed. It's like wrestling made me feel like I was safe. And so I trusted it. That's why I was so hardcore about it, man. And like just loyal. But then when I started realizing all these things, it was like the one thing I felt safe with, now it's unsafe. Like this is such a mind F. And I feel like that's why also I've been transparent as much as I can online throughout the years. Even like when I got fired back in the day on my MySpace page, I was blogging about it. But specifically during that time when I was brokenhearted from the indies, when I went back that second time, I would go online and I would try to find anyone that's a female former wrestler or a wrestler talking about these mental health issues and how these things can affect you. And the only person that I would come across that would touch on anything that I was feeling was China. And I know by then a lot of people had kind of discredited a lot of what she had to say, especially after like her kind of, dabbling in with like, doing porn and doing all these different things. So people kind of just looked at her as like this wreck of a person and like she don't know what she's talking about. And to me, I was just like, dude, like, and it's crazy because my friendship with China really began when I was going through that, the trying to filter through like what the F is going on here in this business and where's my place, because she was, like I said, the only one that was talking about it. Like I would see shoot interviews with dudes and I would see shoot interviews with women too, but I felt like the real like stuff, man, that we go through, especially when you're disappointed from the business and you feel like it chewed you up and spit you out. It sucks, dude. And then when you work so hard, and if it's something that makes you get confidence, makes you feel like you finally are in a safe space, makes you feel like your hard work's paying off, when you got that rug pulled from under your feet moment, it's not just a moment that sticks with you and it's like, oh, this is a bad day or a bad week. Like I got fired in 2006 and it wasn't until like last year I was able to finally connect more dots and be able to let go of a lot, which then helped me with my mental health. Like that's a long time. And I've been doing the work it's not like this whole time I just been like, oh, spinning out of control. I spun out of control multiple times because I was trying to filter through X, Y, and Z happened. What the F? What am I supposed to do now? Now what? And I kind of still feel, I think it's gotten a little bit better, but people still shy away from talking about certain things because you never know if you need to get back in that ring. You never know if you need another job. And I'm not knocking people for that. Everyone has their own situation. If somebody doesn't want to talk about candidly or be transparent about these things because they might want to go back to WWE or TNA or AEW or whatever the case may be one day. They don't want to burn that bridge. Brothers, I've been burning bridges since I entered the business. So I'm over here and I'm just like, I'll say it all then because I have nothing to lose because none of those people want me and I don't want them. So here we go.
Well, respect to that. I guess the last thing I'll ask you, do you have any kind of relationship with Bully Ray?
You know, I do. It's not like we're BFF or anything, but here's what's so effing crazy. So I was always that girl. I was like, I'm going to be in WWF. I'm going to be in WWF. And again, being the Elaine of the group, I was always the girl of the group. I had this group of friends for a really long time, and we'd always have pay-per-view parties, that whole 9 yards. And so there was a pay-per-view, and it was at the Anaheim Pond in 2000. And that's when the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Christian and Edge had their ladders match. And I remember I was in the room and we were watching it on the pay-per-view, and the whole room was going nuts because that match is nuts. It's such a good match. And I remember I was just sitting there, and I'm the type of person I like to get into it, but like, yeah, and cheering and everything, but I was real quiet. And I remember when there was this moment with Jeff and Bubba, when Jeff did his dive on Bubba off of the ladder, there was like this moment where like the crowd's taking it in, the wrestlers themselves are taking a moment. While that was all happening, it's like this fire was lit in me. And when I saw the energy that the people in the audience were giving these dudes, when I saw the energy the people in the room, I was like, I want that. I want to do that. I want to make people feel, man. I want to do that. And I completely forgot about it until earlier in the year. Bubba made a post, and it was that clip. And it was like a movie. I just went, Shelly McFly sitting there. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was the moment. And then I remember another moment. I was at a WWF house show. Me and Melina went. We were just wrestling students. We weren't getting looked at, nothing. We were just nerds that wanted to go see WWE or F. And I remember Bubba, he did the thing where he like hawks a loogie and then like he swallows it, like catches it. And I just thought he was so hot for that. I was like, yeah, he just doesn't care. And like, whatever. And it was like this moment. I was like, yeah, man. Like, oh. And so then fast forward, when I am in TNA, that's when I got to know him more. And there was just something about him and Devon that I was like, these guys are different. There's something about them, like as far as like backstage, blah, blah, blah. And like how they're different, that's what translates when they perform. And I just remember like I would talk to Bubba and I told him about the moment with the loogie and all this and that and the other. And so it's like kind of like Ozzy. Bubba's been in little weird moments in my career or in my life where it just like all was pointing me to my purpose, and my purpose was to be in wrestling. And I think it's really effing cool.
It is. There it is, Mike.
We think you're pretty effing cool. So.
There it is.
Jimmy,
hey, Mike, can I get one last thing in? After all, it's vampires anyway. Here's the last $1 million Pharaoh question. Bela Lugosi or Christopher Lee?
Oof.
Bela Lugosi.
Thank you. Nice. She didn't even hesitate, Mike. And they're both great. They're both great, but it's got to be Bella. Come on now.
1,000,000,000%.
What about Frankenstein and Wolfman? Anyway, Shelly, thank you for joining us. Incredible guest. Thank you for your honesty. Just incredible. Wishing you a great weekend, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Jimmy, send us out, buddy.
You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh, and until next time, later.
What's up, buddy?
Yo,
What'd you think?
you wiener. Jimmy, would you like to announce anything? I'm like, shut up, Mike. The fuck is
I didn't
wrong
mean
with
it that
you?
way. I was talking about coming to New York, dude. Stop it. I didn't mean
Right,
it
yeah,
that way.
right. Coming to New York. Why would you be coming to New York? I don't even want to fucking, you know.
So what'd you think of her?
She was cool. That was cool.
Got a lot
I
of
like
Ozzy in there, baby. A lot of Ozzy.
She's smoking, man. Oh my god.
Yeah, you ain't kidding, bro.
She is smoking.
And she likes Paul Heyman. Ooh,
Yeah, I'm all confused. Whatever, man. That's actually encouraging.